I introduce the candidates, I will cover the ground rules. Just now, the candidates drew lots to decide who speaks first. We will alternate who replies first thereafter. Each candidate will have 2 minutes for opening remarks. Afterwards, the candidates will respond to 4 questions from the panel. These questions were already provided to the candidates in advance. The panelists will ask 2 follow-up questions. The 2 written questions will also come from the audience. Each candidate will ask one another 1 question. The candidates will have 1 minute to respond to each question. Finally, each candidate has 2 minutes for closing remarks. There are 3 members of the question panel, 2 from the coalition and 1 from the league. Panelists, please tell us your name, group, and your ward, and we will begin with Mr. Green.
My name is Alan Green, 814 Wright Avenue, and I'm in Ward 1.
I'm Lynn Parker. I'm here representing the League of Women Voters, and I live in Hillcrest in Ward 3.
I'm Vanessa McEwen. I'm with the Central High Neighborhood Association, and I'm here with Ward 1.
Each response is timed. The timekeeper will give a warning by holding up a card when there is 30 seconds remaining. The city director candidates for Ward 2 are Director Ken Richardson and Ms. Pam Adcock. Each candidate will have 2 minutes to respond to opening remarks. Let's begin opening remarks with Director Richardson.
Good morning. I'm Ken Richardson, current City Director of Ward 2. I want to thank you guys for inviting me to participate in this debate this morning. I'm seeking re-election for a number of reasons. First and foremost, I want to continue my work of addressing public safety through community building. I'm proud of my efforts over the last 2 terms of addressing community building through public safety by continuing my work of community building, where I've garnered over $40 million of redevelopment issues, redevelopment efforts, particularly addressing resources from the federal government, nonprofit foundations, where we've developed a Youth Adult Opportunity Center. We've had resources to continue developing fledgling, ongoing nonprofit organizations, where we had $4 million to do direct funding for community-based organizations. We've had community empowering grants where we put money out in the community. We've also had nonprofit training, and we've also done some work with the school district where we've had crisis intervention response teams in the school district, where we've had efforts to help train and keep young people out of the alternative schools. So those kind of creative out-of-the-box opportunities, we want to continue to work and have those kind of partnerships. And I think that one of the things that we've been able to do, excuse me, in my role as a city director is have those collaborative efforts between the city and the school district to foster those relationships to help improve outcomes for marginalized children, youth, and families. And I think that's one of the reasons why I want to continue my work.
Thank you. Ms. Adcock.
I too want to thank you for having this forum for the public to hear the candidates. I am Pam Adcock. I've been married for 34 years to Frank. We have 3 children and 2 grandchildren. I've dedicated my adult life to my family and to the service of the community. I've been Cloverdale Neighborhood President for 21 years, a member of Southwest Up for 21 years, serving as President for 4 years. I've been involved in the local schools and the various PTAs. I've served on the Planning Commission for 11 years and Animal Services Advisory Board for 8 years. I was elected as state representative and served 3 full terms and term limited until they sent me home in '09. I was privileged to be Speaker Pro Tem, which works side by side with the state speaker. All the while I was a representative, I fulfilled my duty on the Planning Commission, the Animal Board, Southwest Up, and Cloverdale. During the years of the community service, I helped steer the building of the Southwest Community Center, its expansion and its pool, the local library, the health department, the DHS building on Baseline, the Animal Services new building, the village. I have worked with the State Highway Department on the overpass for Chico Road, Baseline Road, and now the future overpass for Geyer Springs. I have chaired 2 times the tours for the city of Little Rock with NUSA. I spearheaded the bond issue that brought the drainage project to Cloverdale back in the 90s. And I took on the neighborhood park. When the city closed it, we kept it open, and we had after-school programs free of charge for the children in Southwest Little Rock. I, Pam Adcock, ask you for your vote November the 4th for Ward 2. I believe I've proven myself to be a hard worker for the community, and I have the experience for working with all the people. Thank you.
We have 4 questions from our panel. Let's have the first question from Mr. Alan Green.
What would you do to improve relations between the black community and the Little Rock Police Department?
Ms. Adcock, please respond first.
It's to me first?
Yes.
First of all, I would continue doing what I'm doing now, and that is by setting the example. I work with all people. Color makes no difference to me. Respectfulness does. I will support the chief as he works to build a positive relationship in our community, and as a director, it's my job to provide the tools and funding to support the police chief and the police department.
Thank you, Mr. Richardson.
Well, I think you have to, you have to provide opportunities for the police department to interact with the black community beyond policing. I think we need to reinstitute the Bridging the Gap program where you had the police department have basketball series with young minority men, and we need to expand the OK program where you have mentoring with young black men. I think we also need to incentivize housing program where we have police officers live within the community, not mandate residency. And I think one of the things I worked with the previous police chief and the city manager where we have take-home car programs for officers who live within the city. So that would actually increase opportunities for and encourage opportunities for our officers to want to live in the city. So we need to incentivize opportunities for our officers who want to live in the city, so we create opportunities for them to live here, therefore increase opportunities for them to interact with our officers, interact with our community in ways beyond policing.
Thank you. Question number 2 comes from Ms. Lynn Parker.
How will you attract diverse applicants for the positions on the city boards and the city's commissions?
Well, we need to work with our Racial and Cultural Diversity Commission, for one. I think we had a resolution that we passed. We had proposed an ordinance. It was devolved into a resolution. I think we need to work with our Racial and Cultural Diversity Commission. But first and foremost, we need to make sure that that resolution applies to all boards and commission. I think sometimes we use that resolution in a perfunctory way. We don't apply it to those boards and commission that has meat and power. We don't use that for A&P commission. We don't use it for those commission that has power, that has influence over resources. We use that to deal with these perfunctory kind of commissions. So I think we need to work with our Racial and Cultural Diversity Commission. We need to work with members in our community, whether it's representatives from the League of Women Voters, whether it's representatives from the Greater Coalition of Little Rock Neighborhoods, but we need to make sure we're engaging, involving our community. But it doesn't necessarily need to be applied to those perfunctory kind of boards and commissions. It needs to be applied to those that have influence.
Ms. Adcock.
In order to attract diverse applicants, I would continue to do as I have for the many past years. As president of Southwest UP and as state legislator, I sent notices monthly and bi-monthly whenever asking the neighborhood presidents to send us applicants for those positions. And of course, as you know, the mayor selects the applicants, but as a board member, I would have more access to the mayor regarding the selection of the members and would stress diversity and representation for all. Being on the planning commission, I really know what having a diverse board means. I mean, if you've got all developers on that planning commission and no neighborhood people, then you run into trouble, and that's where we've been before. Thankfully, it's balanced back out for a while, but I want to make sure that we stay that way.
Thank you.
Thank you. Question number 3 will come from panelist McEwen.
The coalition advocated for the city rental inspection program, which is a good step to identify unsafe housing, but too often vacant houses end up condemned and demolished rather than rehabilitated. Though demolition is often presented to the city board as the first step in redevelopment of the property, the number of weed lots in our core neighborhoods continues to grow. What would you do to redevelop our 700 vacant houses and 8,000 vacant lots and make reinvestment in our city's older neighborhoods a priority?
Ms. Adcock.
The rental inspection program is very important in Southwest Little Rock and in all of Ward 2, actually the entire city. As a city director, I would work with the Housing and Coding Department to increase inspections before structure got to the point of being demolished. For the existing weed lots, work with people that were willing to rehab, do infill development, which we've really stressed on the Planning Commission. We stress it all the time in Ward 2. Look for grant dollars to build home, allocate more CDBG funding to the housing needs, and ask the banks to help with the lending. Also, you need to alert the adjacent property owners that that property is for sale at a reduced price. I want to develop a plan where demolition is the last resort. There needs to be a board and secure plan that establishes a better appearance, require rehabilitation and construction plan with that owner, establish a time frame for them to complete the work.
Mr. Richardson?
This is not a fair question because I worked with Vanessa over the last 2 years in terms of trying to develop an ordinance for the city to have a comprehensive redevelopment preservation policy. Unfortunately, some of my colleagues equate demolition with improving the neighborhoods. There are homes right now that are boarded up that if we don't pay attention to them, incentivizing redevelopment, that 5 years from now, they're going to be condemned. They're going to be demolished. We need to have a comprehensive preservation policy so that we can incentivize revitalization, redeveloping these, so that while now we have 800 boarded up, if we don't do something right now, 4 years from now, they're going to be 700 boarded up, and we're going to have 100 more vacant lots. So I think we need to have some kind of redevelopment preservation policy. And Vanessa, I don't mean to put you on the spot, but Vanessa and I have been talking about this. And anybody who watch board meetings, I sound like a broken record every time we talk about condemnation and boarded up homes. And I think it's something that we need to generate a lot more conversations about, and then marshal the will from the public to bring this to our attention every time we have condemnations and we show these pictures on the board meetings every Tuesday night when we're talking about this.
Time.
Question number 4 will come from Ms. Parker.
In voting on planning and zoning issues, how will you balance the city's need for economic growth with the citizens' desire for livable neighborhoods?
You know, unfortunately, these things are not mutually exclusive. I think they get couched as opposites, polar opposites, and they're not. The way you do this, you have citizen community engagement on the front end. They have to have some kind of community engagement to help guide, direct the growth. And I think sometimes it gets pitched as mutually exclusive. I think sometimes we have the unfortunate reality that the community does not want to see growth. It has to be smart growth. We have smart people in our community that can guide the growth. And they're not polar opposites. So I think you have to have it where we have the community engaged on the front end so it guides and helps develop that growth. So they're not polar opposites, and it frustrates me sometimes when it gets couched that way. If we have community engagement, civic engagement on the front end, it helps guide that growth.
Ms. Eckhart?
This is one of my favorites. My 11 years on the Planning Commission and as a neighborhood president for 21 years, this was a main priority for me. Having businesses in and around our neighborhoods can be good. They provide convenient shopping and work. My experience will be a positive force as Ward 2 director. I have forever facilitated negotiations between developers and neighborhoods. If I knew whenever we had something coming before me as a planning commissioner, I immediately had that developer go into the neighborhood, and we had meetings with those people. Most recently, Rodney Cycle House, Come and Go, a hotel on South University. All those have been built with my negotiation expertise. All of them are running great. They're wonderful, and they are a real asset to our community.
Thank you. We have 2 follow-up questions. The first follow-up question will come from either Mr. Green or Ms. McEwen.
Excuse me. Public Works spending is allocated among the wards equally rather than on the needs basis listed by city professionals, which showed major work was needed in older city areas. Would you change streets and drainage allocations to a priority needs basis instead of equal ward divisions? Not sure which one goes
Oh,
first.
sorry.
To who? To
Ms.
me?
Adcock, please.
To me, okay.
Yes.
Would I change it? Only if the people required it. This last tax package that was passed The people knew that it would be divided equally among the wards. So as a city director, I can't go back in and change what they voted for. Now, if another tax package comes up, then yes, definitely, that is a major discussion that needs to happen with the citizens before it goes to a vote, actually before it's even written.
Mr. Richardson?
You know, it's interesting, I keep hearing this I phrase. Unilaterally, I couldn't say I would. I was supportive of my good friend and colleague, Dr. Pierce, when he initially made a recommendation that in addition to spreading it across equally, he made a recommendation that the poorest wards, the wards with the greatest needs, wards 1, 2, 6, and 7, have an additional 10% added to their allocations. Unfortunately, that didn't go too well. It didn't pass with some of my colleagues. So unilaterally, I couldn't say I would do that if I had my desires, of course. But that's a we decision. That's a board decision. Certainly, we have to go with the recommendations that were made.
Thank you. We have one more follow-up question, and Ms. Parker will ask that question.
The league has been involved in some of the planning commission issues through Ruth Bell, and you've both talked about planning and zoning and community involvement. Do you see an opportunity to codify some kind of process to get community engagement early on in a process before some zoning
Mr. Richardson?
plan development change?
I think it's a must. I think that unfortunately sometimes we don't have that codified. I think sometimes it unfortunately makes it a us versus them. I think we got to figure out a way to develop this we sense of spirit. You know, one of the things that's most frustrating to me is when we up here, we're talking about us versus them, whether it's different parts of our city versus wards. And, you know, even in this particular race right now, I'm dealing with this one part of my ward versus the other part of the ward. And I think that's some of the most disturbing aspects of what we're dealing with in our community. So I think that's an excellent point, and I think we got to figure out a way to get past that. I mean, I think it's so disturbing that we pit ward against ward, and right now I'm dealing with parts of my ward against other parts of my ward, and that's just idiotic in this day and time that we're dealing with that kind of nonsense in terms of trying to move our community forward.
Thank you. Ms. Adcock?
Could you repeat the question, please?
I'll try. Because of the interest in planning and zoning, and you've both mentioned getting the public involved in it, I wonder if there's a way of codifying some process for ensuring that the community's involved in the front end.
All I can offer is why we as a community have already done, and I'd bring that to the table as a city director. As president of Southwest Ops and Cloverdale, I received the planning packet way before the public sees it. And I immediately contact the neighborhood associations and let them know what is coming up in their area. And then we contact the developer, and then we have a meeting with them. So the people are well informed way before it gets to this level, and then all negotiations take place before the fact. So that has to happen, and it needs to happen all over the city, not just in one little section. So yeah, I'm willing to teach anybody how to do it. It's wonderful. Thank you.
Thanks. We have collected questions from the audience, and this is the first question. In reference to the 12th Street quarter improvement, and in parentheses it says street repaves, bike lane, police substation, etc. Did you campaign for and vote for the Little Rock Sales Tax Initiative in 2011? If not, why not? And I will ask Ms. Adcock to respond first.
I'm sorry, I didn't catch all of the question, the very end.
Okay. Did you campaign for or vote for the Little Rock Sales Tax Initiative? If not, why not?
No, I did not. For the main fact that it was a little, in my opinion, lopsided. Those in Ward 1 and 2 needed needed a lot more than what I felt that we were gonna get out of it.
Mr. Richardson,
Did I campaign for it?
did you vote for it?
Well, did I vote for it? When I went into the voting booth, I'm not gonna tell you how I voted.
Did you support it? Why or why not?
I tell you, I didn't vote to move forward with it because I made a motion to cap the capital projects from 10 years to 4 years because what we're wrestling with right now, and I didn't get a second for that. Unfortunately, because what we're wrestling with right now, in 4 years, those projections are going to be 2% off, and here's what we're going to have to deal with. We're going to deal with a very real possibility of cutting back on some of the projects that we promised because the collections are 2% behind. I made a motion to say, let's cut the 10-year projects to 4 years so we can do an assessment on where we are with collections. I did not get a second. Check the tapes and you'll see that because I had an understanding that we're going to look at some of that. I don't want to promise something that we can't fulfill. And I made a recommendation to cut the 10 years to 4 years, didn't get a second. So I didn't go out and actually campaign for it. And how I voted, that's really none of your business. I'm sorry.
Okay.
I don't mean to be flippant, but that's a real interesting question.
Okay,
I answered it.
our second audience question. The Black community should not have to beg for amenities the white community expects. With 12th Street as an example, what will you do to eliminate this pattern and ensure that the thoroughfares in the Black community will be completed with the same speed demonstrated on South Main, West Markham, and Cantrell? And I will ask Director Richardson to respond first.
I'm sorry, I apologize for that previous answer. What was the question again, ma'am?
Okay. The Black community should not have to beg for amenities the white community expects. With 12th Street as an example, what would you do to eliminate this pattern and ensure that thoroughfares in the Black community will be completed with the same speed demonstrated on South Main, West Markham, and Cantrell?
I'm not sure how we're quantifying, how we're defining the Black community for one. That's interesting. I'm not sure how we're doing it. I know that what we're doing on 12th Street and other parts of our community, we're utilizing planning processes and we're utilizing recommendations from our planning department and public work departments to adequately plan and address the needs in our community. So I'm not sure how we're defining the Black communities. I think that what we're doing is trying to address the needs in the community and utilizing the resources in the best possible way, the most effective, efficient way to move our community forward. I do know that part of the impetus for 12th Street Revitalization Redevelopment Plan was to address the notion that the city has done a wonderful job of redevelopment downtown, a wonderful job of development out west. This place in the middle, we've done a horrible job, and that was the impetus for me developing the 12th Street Revitalization Plan.
Ms. Adcock.
I feel that this question is very, it divides us even more. And I hate that. I've worked for years to bring the community together as one. And I'm just not one, and I know I've been, I'm not one to look at color, and I'm not one to look at this black section, this white section. I don't live in a white section or a black section. I live in a community where all people are equal, and we treat each other equally and respectfully. That one just kind of blew me away. I'm sorry. I thought we were past that. Guess not.
Okay, we have come to the point where one candidate is allowed to ask another candidate a question. So we will start with Ms. Adcock. Will you ask Mr. Richardson your question?
Could you give me 3 neighborhood associations in Ward 2 and a problem you are working on with each of them at this time?
A problem that I'm working on with them?
3 neighborhood associations in Ward 2.
Fair Park Neighborhood Association, Love Neighborhood Association, our Neighborhood Association, and a problem that I'm working on with them. I would say the 12th Street Corridor Revitalization Project works with all of them.
Okay, Mr. Richardson, will you ask Ms. Adcock a question?
Yes. Pam, what would be your solution to address the needs of disconnected adults and youth, and I define that population as those who are unemployed or unemployable because of felonies and or lack of education?
Oh, this is a good one. There's so many things that I have learned over the last several years dealing with or being involved with Robert Holt, the I Believe organization, the Love organization, and the mentoring. The mentoring is the number one thing that we have to do and have to increase. Been working for the last, sending out messages, trying to get that mentoring group involved. And that includes everything from the kids to the adults and to the parolees. Being able to work with businesses within the community to offer jobs, especially the 65th Street Industrial Park and our Metro Plan School, or the Metropolitan School. There's so many opportunities out there, but the word just doesn't get out, and that has to be, we have to have that communication and let these people know that we're here.
Each candidate will now have 2 minutes for closing remarks. Candidates may choose to address or clarify any issues that may have come up during questions. Let's begin closing remarks with Ms. Adcock.
Thank you again for providing the public with this forum. You've heard my extensive experience in lots of areas for the city and the state and my neighborhood work. I hope you've heard from my statements how dedicated I am to you and to the city. I have provided you with some of my past accomplishments, just some, and I have provided you with just some of what I want to accomplish. I have high goals for Ward 2, and I know that working with you, we can succeed. We deserve hardworking directors that can focus on the needs of Ward 2 and all the people and all the problems that will arise. You will get that when you vote for me. We need a director that is hands-on in the community, for all the community. You'll get that with me. We deserve a director that can take seriously all the duties, all the committees, all the liaison positions, and I know I'm that person. I have proven it. You will get that when you vote for me. I promise you now, and I'll promise you every day, that I'm here to improve the city, and I will work for all of you. I, Pam Adcock, ask for your vote on November the 4th as City Director, Ward 2. Thank you.
Thanks, Mr. Richardson.
Thank you. I want to thank Pam for being on this panel with me, and this is the only time I'm going to say aye. I want to ask for your vote on November 4th, but I want to say that I look at in the audience and I see a number of people that I've worked with on a number of issues. We need to continue the work that we started back in 2007. We need to continue to work with addressing the needs of disconnected adults and youth. We need to come back with another resolution to provide policies to incentivize employing people who are unemployed or underemployed. We need to recognize that public safety, we can't arrest our way out of this issue. We can't jail our way out of it. It's not practical. It's not cost effective. It's not working. We're not going to lock people up forever. We can't do that. These people are coming back into our community. We, not I, not Ken Richardson, we need to develop sound policies. We, as a community, need to work together. We need to support our Young Adult Opportunity Center. We need to work with our educational system. We need to work with our community. We need to build our community. We need to come together as a community. We need to develop sound policies to build our community, to work with our young people, to incentivize employing the young people who are failing in our communities, failing in our education system, the people who are coming back into our community from the penitentiary system. We. Doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure out some of the things that need to happen. It doesn't take all kinds of resources. It takes common sense. It takes people thinking outside of the box. We, not Ken Richardson, not I, not me, we. I am we. Thank you for letting me be here today.
Thanks. This concludes Ward 2 segment of the forum. Thank you to the candidates for your participation, and thank you to the audience for your attendance and questions. I want to remind everyone that the early voting begins on October 20th, and the election day is November 4th. I am Sheila Miles with the Wright Avenue Neighborhood Association, and I have served as your moderator for the Ward 2 segment of this forum.